All right, thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much for 3,000 subscribers. We'll try not to let you down. We're going to have fun commentating and giving perspectives on Ole Miss football along the way. Today's transfer portal spotlight is going to be on the wide receiver position, and specifically 3 wide receivers. Now, we'll start with Rara Thomas at Mississippi State. And normally I have graphics, but I didn't get them imported into the computer before I started the show, so we don't have graphics today. Rara Thomas, a 6'2", 200-pound receiver out of Eufaula, Alabama. Why is that important? Eufaula, Alabama is where Katie Hill is from. It is also where I believe a kid is being recruited that's committed to Georgia Tech. I forget his name. But that's somebody else from Eufaula that is worth paying attention to. This season, Rah-Rah came up with 44 receptions, 626 yards, 7 touchdowns, averaged 14.5 yards per reception. That's up from 18 for 252 as a freshman. His second numbers, this year's numbers, were sophomore numbers. So he has 2 years worth of eligibility as well. With Malik Heath having a really good year and showing that it is possible to make that jump from the Mike Leach air raid system into Lane Kiffin's offense where they throw the ball downfield, there's a chance for growth for Heath. It's a chance for growth for Rara Thomas. Ole Miss is listed with Georgia and Auburn, I believe, as his choices, and I don't know if it's true, but I saw something on Twitter today that he was planning on announcing his commitment spot on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, so we'll wait to see about that. Like I said, I don't know if that's true or not, but it's worth paying attention to. It's worth mentioning. But good player, really good player, could really help Ole Miss's offense. Now, before we tell you the other two, the reason that you're going to notice these receivers are all going to be over 200 pounds and they're all going to be 6'2" or higher. Because these outside receivers have such an important job in blocking. You have to be unbelievably unselfish to play wide receiver in our system. Everybody talks about all the numbers and everything. Lane Kiffin likes to throw the ball down the field, all of that stuff. That's great. You really have to be good blockers to play wide receiver at Ole Miss. And with Quinshon Judkins, and if Zach Evans returns with him, or if it's Kedrick Riscano, or if it's Ulysses Bentley IV playing running back, the outside receivers is going to be important that they block really well. And they're built size-wise at the level they are because of, honestly, getting a mismatch on corners. Most corners are going to be 175, 180 pounds, generally. They're going to be 5'10" to 6 foot. You're going to be able to create that mismatch. If you want to run the ball outside, you might have a mismatch with a larger wide receiver. So that's one of the reasons that larger wide receivers get recruited and get used a lot in the Ole Miss system. Rara Thomas, a really good player, though. Another option for Ole Miss is Trey Harris. He's a 6'2", 205-pound receiver. So there's that height and weight again. From Lafayette, Louisiana. He went to Como High School, but he's from Louisiana Tech. They started running him a little bit this past year. He was becoming an option for them at wide receiver for Sonny Cumbie's offense. So it's a little bit of air raid principled stuff. So it's another one trying to make that jump. His season high was against Middle Tennessee where he went for 157. His longest catch was 64 yards. And he also had a 3-touchdown game this year. He was an all-conference USA player. Good player. Now, if you want to look at him against elite competition, he went 6 for 37 against Missouri. Now, elite, I get it. He went 4 for 56 and a touchdown against Clemson. These are decent teams. UAB, 6 for 63 and a touchdown. UTSA, 5 for 49. So good performances against decent teams. He went over 100 yards 3 times this year against UTEP, at North Texas, and against Middle Tennessee. He had 10 touchdowns in the year. His long was 64 yards. So good player. has a chance to step up and do well, kind of a Troy Brown type thing at Ole Miss. But he is that bigger type wide receiver because of what they're asked to do. Now, the next one, he doesn't have necessarily numbers that will wow you, but he has the size. And I have some questions about this one. Not necessarily anything negative about him, but this is about Joshua Cobbs, who is basically the number one wide receiver at Wyoming, 6'4", 205 pounds. See, there's that size again. His season high on the year was 77 yards against Tulsa. His longest catch was a 51-yarder against Tulsa. He hasn't overly been used that well. Now, that could be a situation that Wyoming just doesn't have that dude at quarterback. Josh Allen's not walking through that door for them. But you might see him as a little bit of a hybrid type situation. The way they used Jonathan Mingo this past season at the end of the year, I think he could do a little bit of that. But he is a good receiver. He was the number one receiver at Wyoming. But most people are expecting him to potentially go to another G5 school because his numbers aren't overly impressive. But it could be a situation where talent just hasn't bled through it all. I think Isaiah Noor was a Wyoming receiver that went to Texas, got hurt, didn't play that much during the season. But we'll see exactly what happens with these three guys. As you can see, when it comes to wide receivers right now in the portal, Ole Miss has a type. And that type is going to be really important for what they do moving forward. Now, next week we're going to hit on edge players a little bit. And then we'll see exactly where the portal goes from there, because they may go from one position to the next, because as information and offers go out, we will listen and commentate on all that stuff. So hope everybody had a good time with that. Anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. From games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. It's Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Hey, if anything happens after I record today, and you see this and you, hey, Steve, this is old news, I understand that. I had to record a little bit early today because we have some Christmas type stuff that we need to do. But we'll continue to monitor throughout the week, into next weekend, through Christmas, the whole 9 yards, and should be a lot of fun. Anyway, thank you guys very much for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care. Peace.